This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Lorraine Day wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job, Dr. Day. That was the best ever. Here we go.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
Okay, so we have lots of questions, Dr. Day. This is probably one of my favorite conversations to have in the classroom. It's about forgiveness. It's about awareness. It's about making a choice to end and release whatever it is, whether you have been molested as a child or wronged as an adult. It doesn't matter what it is. There is a way to go from that, someone did me wrong, to I choose this for me because the lessons that came from it are invaluable.
Right.
I mean, Dr. Day, can you think about the time in your life that everything was perfect, finances were great, nothing was wrong? I mean, how much growth did you do during that time?
Oh, you don't change it all. If everything's going well, you don't change it all. Why should you? Everything's going well. The only way you change is when things go upside down. And then you have to do something. You either go down with the ship or else you grow. And it's far better to grow. And so I know all of these things that happened in my life. I understand now why they happened to get me to the place where I am. I was an agnostic for 35 years of my adult life. I had no interest in religion at all. I didn't read the Bible. I was raised a Christian. I read the Bible a lot growing up because I went to Christian schools. So I was reading for my lessons. I was a good student. I wanted to do well. I didn't know the Lord, but I did know that my father knew the Lord. I knew that my father knew the Lord. My mother, not as much as my father, although she was a wonderful woman. She was a wonderful woman and kind and all that. And I actually, when I told her about universal restoration, which she had never heard of, when I told her about that and showed her all the texts, I spent one whole afternoon showing her that when I understood about it, that God's going to save everybody. And I thought I was going to have a big fight on my hands. But she immediately said, "That's God. I know that's God." Mm-hmm. And then she said, and she was perfectly well at that time, she said, "Now I can die in peace because I know that God's going to save everybody I love." So she understood that immediately. And I realized that she was closer to God than I recognized because she understood it immediately. By the time I understood about universal restoration, my father had already passed away, so I couldn't talk to him about it. But I can tell you that this is the greatest joy ever. And this is who God is. And this is how he's going to restore us to being. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to hang on to that lack of forgiveness, you're going to hang on to anger, grudge holding, go ahead, go down with the ship. He's going to get you later. But why not just get on board now and avoid the rush of all the people who are doing it later?
Yeah. Avoid the rush. I love that. Okay, so I'm going to read some of your questions. We got lots of questions, Dr. Day. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is from Great Kumbini. Okay, it says, how do you handle someone who has chronic severe throat pain from nerve damage from stage 4 cancer, chemo radiation treatments, many days? The pain is overwhelming. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well, I would suggest get well.
Yeah, but how from the chemo?
You can still, if people who've had chemo can still get well.
Okay, so she's asking for suggestion how to do it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, go to my website, all the information. This is not, people write sometimes, they say, just give me the one book I need to get well. And I say, well, what if I said to a law school professor, I just want one book or one DVD to tell me how to pass the bar and get through law school? I mean, you need more information. This person has gotten themselves into this situation. He or she did it to themselves, just like I did it to myself.
And I want to say that whenever people hear that, they get angry.
Oh, sure.
But I want to make sure that you understand this is displaced anger. Because why would I go through this when I was told that this was the way to go? Chemotherapy, radiation, I was going through fear and I was told this is the only way. And this chemotherapy and radiation causes cancer as well. It causes lots of pain. And now you're saying this, and the anger is not towards Dr. Day. The anger is towards the people who actually did this too.
Well, the anger should be against yourself because you're not reading your Bible.
Well,
God gives you the way to get well.
Mhm.
You have that available to you right at your fingertips. It's because you don't want to follow God's way. Nobody has tied your hands to keep you from opening a Bible, and they're available every place. You can get one for a couple of bucks, a whole lot less than it costs you for the chemo and all the radiation. We do this to ourselves. The reason that I can say this, you can get mad at me as much as you want. It doesn't bother me. I gave myself cancer, and everybody who has a disease gave it to themselves.
But
It
you
is
didn't
not
do
genetic.
You didn't do radiation. So radiation, there are side effects to
Right, but
radiation.
the thing is, I didn't do radiation, and that makes you worse, but you can still get well. You can still get well. Even if you've had radiation or chemotherapy, even if you've had a whole bunch of body parts removed, you can still get well.
So
you just have to decide, I'm going to do it God's way. You've got to dig yourself out of a slightly deeper hole, but you can still get well. So
and
that's
wellness, what I'm hearing you say is wellness is also in the mind.
Oh, of course, you have to decide. The reason that I got well is I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get well, and I'm not going to complain. As I've told you before, and numerous times when I've been on, talk to people. And again, the plan is not a food plan. The plan is not a juicing plan. Those things are part of it, but there are 10 steps in the plan. But, when people say, oh, I have to be a vegan vegetarian, and they screw up their nose like that. And I say, but I don't like vegetables. And my answer is, what does that have to do with it? It doesn't matter what you like. Grow up. We're grown-ups now.
Wait.
Grow up. It doesn't matter what you like. It only matters how you handle the issue and what you do.
Yeah.
How many mothers love changing dirty diapers on their baby? Oh, I love change. No, they don't, but they do it because it's the right thing to do, and because they're grown up enough to do it. Who likes to clean up the vomit of their sick child? Nobody loves to do that. You just do it because it's the right thing to do. If you're sick, the good news, you should embrace the good news, because if you did it to yourself, which you did, then you can fix it.
That's right.
That's the good news. And until you recognize and admit you did it to yourself, you can't get well.
Yes, absolutely. Amen.
So
okay.
That's the best news in the world, that you did it to yourself.
That's right. That's right. And Sandra, thank you so much for your question, how to donate to the classroom. What you can do is you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com, and you can either become a reoccurring donor go to the enroll student button, go there. Right now, there's some modifications happening in the website because there was a problem with the theme on the website, so they're in the process of fixing that. But if those numbers, if it's different that you want to donate, or it's a one-time thing, you can go on PayPal, and the Lily at whenyouneedafriend.com is my PayPal, and you can do a donation there. Or people are sending checks, which I think is just, God is so good. And so you can send the checks to the PO Box 10. And I don't know if, Robert, if you are listening still, if you can put the PO Box number, it's PO Box 1064. I hope I said it right. And that's Cape Canaveral, Florida, 32920. And if you want that, we can maybe put the address on there later on, or I can, but those are 3 different ways that you can donate. But thank you so much for your consideration. And if you want to be a part of the workshop, make sure that you are a subscriber at whenyouneedafriend.com. If you're not a member of the New Truth series, because all the announcements will be there on Facebook. But if you are also a member of a subscriber at whenyouneedafriend.com, I will be announcing the dates and the workshop. But the workshop that we're going to be doing, I'm not talking about the one with Dr. Day. That's going to be the 50 lessons from Exodus, and that's going to start January 18th. We'll make an announcement, and you guys can get the early bird special for those of you who want to get the early bird special. And the people that are the first ones to sign up, there's also going to be a discount for that too. So just stay tuned for it, because the workshop is going to be to help you get unstuck, to help you open your heart in ways that you never thought you could, so that you can prepare yourself for the lessons that we're going to learn from the book of not the book of Exodus, but from the Exodus.
Exodus
So,
itself, right?
yeah, I keep saying the book of Exodus because there is a book of Exodus, but it's the action, the journey of Exodus. Yes. Okay. So then Linda has, apparently my hip is out of alignment. Does this sort of thing happen with anxiety or self-absorption? I want to walk and do my gardening without pain. Oh, but here we go, Dr. Day. Do you want to rewind? Okay, so thanks so much for this teaching.
Well, when you say your hip is out of alignment, hips don't dislocate or get out of alignment unless you get hit by a truck or somebody throws you down the stairs or you fall down the stairs. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, that your hip is out of alignment. If you're saying you have hip pain, then you have to decide what your hip pain is caused by, because, and I don't know how old you are. I don't know what your x-rays look like. If you want to stop your arthritis in its track, if that's what you have. Now, if you are too far gone, so you're 70 years old and you have severe arthritis, then you need a total hip replacement if you're not able to walk. And that's a good operation. It's a good operation. Doctors have done that for years, because you won't live long enough. You have to live to be about 250 to reverse that. So you won't be able to reverse that. But if you want to stop your arthritis, stop eating animal products and start drinking water and start exercising. Those are the ways you stop arthritis. I don't have any arthritis at all, and I'm 83. So you don't have to get arthritis. But if you're eating animal products, you're eating sugar. Sugar also causes
I was gonna say inflammation. Yeah.
And so you don't want to do that, and you need to start getting some exercise. So but when you say your hip is out of place, that takes an enormous amount of trauma to do that. And if you would know that if your hip was actually out of place, you wouldn't be able to walk.
Okay. And so good. I hope that's a start for you. You can go to drday.com, or you can go to Good News.
I would suggest if you go to drday.com, the two things that you would want to start with are the DVD called Diseases Don't Just Happen. I talk about arthritis there. And then the book, I Will Give You Back Your Health Again. And that will help you get started on the plan. Will
that also help the lady or the person with the throat problems, I think it was the throat pains from
the cancer, the one that has cancer? They need the whole starter package. They can't get well without.
No, I think this is after stage 4 cancer, chemotherapy and radiation treatment.
They still have cancer. They still have cancer.
Okay.
Chemo and radiation both cause cancer. How can you get well from cancer by having a treatment that causes cancer? The thing is, all that chemotherapy and radiation does is poison your body so much it's unable to make cancer cells for a while. You're not well. You're not well. And if the treatment, whether the pain is caused by the treatment or caused by the cancer, it doesn't make any difference. You have to stop doing the things that have caused your problem. And one is to stop the chemo, stop the radiation, and start changing your life, the way you're living, thinking, acting, eating, and handling stress. Even if people, the point is, again, if you take a hammer and hit your thumb every day, it's going to hurt. So what do you do to stop? Stop hitting it with a hammer. And that's what you've got to do. Change the things that caused your cancer in the first place and stop the chemo and radiation. It's only making you worse. It destroys your immune system, the one system God has given you to get you well.
Dr. Day, you said one time in the, and I don't know if you've said it more than one time, but at least I heard it again when we were going through the Bible study, the book of Revelation, Nutri series. You had said, the problem is that people are in love with Satan. And I had to sit with that one, Dr. Day. And I had to ask myself the question, how am I worshiping Satan? How am I doing this to me? Well, getting comfortable, being comfortable, not wanting to go outside and doing different things to make ourselves well, watching too much television and not wanting to eat well and giving in to our temptations. And Satan takes on so many different views and looks, and Satan can be so seductive, where some people turn to pornography, or infidelity, and that's when I had to sit and say, how are the ways that it's caused me not to even want to watch certain shows that I was watching. And I'm talking about they're not pornography. I don't do pornography or anything like that.
But they're not uplifting.
They're not uplifting. Yes. I said to Robert,
doesn't make you a better person.
Yeah.
And you see, when you understand, see, you don't have to be a bad person to be in love with Satan. You just have to be a selfish, I want what I want when I want it, and I have the right to make my own decisions. That is
right there. That's probably Satan's mantra. Yeah. If you think, and I had shared that, I think it was a week ago or so, that a friend of mine, and she and I, when we were young moms, we'd get together and we'd go to a retreat center near us, and we would have lunch and we would pray. And in our prayers, basically, we would exchange gratitudes and catch each other up. But it became like, I want, amen. Right. That's what, and I shared that with her, that, that's what it seemed like we were doing. And we laughed. We thought it was funny, or she thought I was being funny, but I was being real. I was being like, and this is not what my prayer used to be. My prayer has been all along, God, if you want it for me, I want it. God, if you don't want it for me, please take it away. Please take it away. And then I become grateful that it's no longer there. And so that's and that mentality shift is that love for Satan. It's that love for, I want what I want when I want it. And when you poke somebody in the eye with those words, you got to just take inventory. How is it that I do? And I want to challenge all of you today. You think about, how different ways that you're doing things that dishonor God and honor a creature that's evil. And so, so this is interesting from Sandra. She said, isn't there something called righteous anger? And the way I know it, Dr. Day, the only one who had righteous anger was Jesus Christ.
Well, you can have righteous anger, such as when a child is being abused by somebody.
Sure.
It's righteous anger, but the Bible talks about righteous, that you can be angry, but don't sin. It says you can be angry, but don't sin. In other words, you can see something is very wrong, and sometimes you can even have an ability to stop it or do something about it. Certainly not by killing the person who's involved, but you can do something about it. You can have anger without sinning. You can have anger that Satan has deceived so many people, but you don't get angry. You don't get angry. You can recognize evil, but not to the point that you get angry about it and you destroy yourself.
Correct.
So you can have righteous anger, but make sure that it's righteous anger, and that you can forgive those who are doing it. But that doesn't mean that you continue to let a child be abused without either reporting it or doing something about it. Doesn't mean that, but it means that until we're perfect, we can't say, I'm not going to forgive them because they're not perfect, because we're not perfect. Once we're perfect, eventually everybody will be perfect, and you won't have that problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So then Sandra wants to know, what does the role of feelings play in our life? And I think you covered that pretty good if you wanted to add some, but it says God obviously gave them to us. Laughter, does good like medicine.
Well, sure. I'm saying you don't live by your feelings. You get up in the morning, well, I don't feel like it. Well, that, I don't feel like going to work today. It doesn't matter whether you feel like it, you just do it. So I'm not saying that we should be emotionless. I mean, laughter is one of the greatest things. My family was very much into laughter. We all grew up laughing.
Well, you have a great sense of humor. We laugh a lot together. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So laughing is wonderful, and laughing is a good medicine. It produces endorphins. It decreases stress. It's a wonderful thing to do. And there's nothing wrong with being sad when some loved one passes away or something bad is happening. But you get a grip. You don't just wallow around in it forever. And so we can have feelings, but we don't live by our feelings.
Correct.
We
So you're
live by doing what's right.
That's right. You're saying basically when you live a life based on feelings, let me give you an example, Sandra. And for those of you who are going, I want to learn more about that. I may not feel like doing the classroom today because my head hurts. So I'm just going to not show up.
Yeah, right.
Or I don't feel like going to a party that I RSVP'd for because I just want to watch that show. That's what Dr. Day is talking about. If you're guided by your feelings, or I want to marry this guy because I feel like, whatever it is, it's not about feelings. It's about your commitments and honoring your commitments. So I may not feel well today, but I am here with you. Right. Like I shared with you last week, I was with my mom and I left my mother's side to be in the classroom with you. Yeah. And that was hard for me to do because I didn't feel like driving home because my commitment was torn. I was torn, but I knew that I had a commitment. And if I would have said, I don't feel like it, because I want to be with my mom, I could have justified it. But my commitment to the commitment was more important than the feeling. And I knew that was important. Does that make sense, Dr. Day?
Oh, of course. And of course, all the time that I was doing surgery for 25 years in San Francisco during the wintertime, it's cold and it's rainy and the wind is blowing. And at that time, we lived in a very lovely home, but it did not have an attached garage. And I'd get a call at 2:00 in the morning, and I'd get out of my nice warm bed and I'd get my clothes on and I'd go out in this freezing, driving rain that turned your umbrella inside out. You think I felt like doing that? No, yeah. But I had to do it. It was part of my job. And so I did it. I never thought about it. I can tell you, this is funny. I was on call every second to third night for 25 years. And frequently I was in the middle of the night operating. And the radiologists were on call every 17th night. We were on call every second or third night. They were on call every 17th night. And many times they didn't have to come in when they were on call. They didn't get called. But when they would come in, they'd cry and wail and complain and all that. Well, that's because they didn't have to do it very often. It just became a part of my life. That's just what you did. And you didn't even think about it. You just did it.
Do it.
And if you have a commitment, you do it. I don't care what. You just do it unless somebody comes along and cuts your legs off or your hands off or something.
Yeah.
You don't have some good excuse like that. You just do it.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, I have legs. Nobody cut them off. I better do it. Okay, that's a great barometer. So that's a good measurement. If you don't feel like doing something, ask yourself, do you still have legs? If the answer is yes, stick to the commitment. So that's okay. So yes. So Lillian, I have a relative with asthma. If you could let us know what herbs you take and if your sponsors carry them. Okay, so I use, I don't want to give you if off the air, I'm more than happy to do that. But I take 1,500 milligram pills and they're tablets of vitamin C, and they're non-GMO. And I take about maybe 6,000 milligrams. It used to be when I first started that I take 10,000 milligrams, and that I got off all my asthma medication. I was in a lot of it. And I'm not saying that this is something they should do. I did this with Dr. Andrew Saul of Food Matters. He was the one during a break during the radio show. He said, Lillian, I can get you off your asthma medication. And you know what? Some people say, if you overdose with vitamin C, You could get an overdose. Well, an overdose with vitamin C is diarrhea.
Hard to
And,
do.
yeah, and hard to, well, you'll know because you'll get gassy, and you'll get the warning, you'll get the trumpet sounding, and you're going, okay, I better stop. And that's enough. It's enough to saturate your body. And then the herb that I'm taking right now is called lobelia. And lobelia is a really good herb for the body. So that has kept me, I was on Asthmacort, Pulmicort, rescue inhaler, steroids. I was on all of that since I was a little girl, and asthma went away at 12, but it came back with a vengeance at 24 when I was pregnant for the first time. And so that was, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And of course, I didn't deal with my emotional traumas. And so those are all things you've got. It's not just taking the vitamin C and the herbs. It's like Dr. Day says, you just don't eat vegan and all of a sudden be healthy. There's a spirit, mind, and body thing, but that's what I've done for me. I'm not saying that'll work for you, but that has worked.
Well, the first thing you have to do if you have asthma is get rid of all the dairy products.
Oh, and I did.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't eat wheat.
Because if people still are doing dairy products and meat and things like that, they're going to have trouble getting rid of their asthma. So you do that. You have to drink a lot of water, because one thing that makes asthma worse is dehydration, because you don't have enough fluid in your body to keep things working properly.
Yeah.
And then of course you've got to learn how to handle your stress, because stress is very dehydrating, first of all. And secondly, when it causes this adrenaline surge and all the other problems that occur when you're stressed, then you even get constriction of your bronchioles, and you just can't breathe right. So it's multifaceted. It's not just one thing. You can take some herbs, that's fine, but you've got to get rid of the other problems.
That's
because herbs are not magic.
Yeah, that's why this conversation that we're having today and the workshop that I'm going to be doing mid-November is important, because what good is doing all the right things when your heart is not right? What good is doing all this? It's just the action. There's got to be a transformation, and the biggest step that we can take is from the head to the heart. And that's just like a tiny little step, but that's a big step. And so that was what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to start with all the traumas and all the somebody done, somebody wrong song, all of that. We're going to start with that. And then on Saturday, do the reflection with God and how God has made blessing from it's not, and I've heard this before. And so this is not me quoting myself. This is me quoting Dr. Wayne Dyer, who said, it's not the snake bite that kills you. It's the venom that runs through your blood. And that venom we need to stop by seeing that we are causing this on ourselves. So that's going to be that. So just stay tuned for it. And I hope that all of you decide that you want to be a part of that. And hopefully that'll be a nice little entry. And Dr. Day, if you want to join us, you're welcome to join us as well. Okay. So then Linda is asking, and those of you who are saying thank you and good, and you're loving this conversation, I'm so glad you are. And then Linda is saying, is there a scripture for God gave us our baggage? Is there a scripture for God gave us our baggage? I am talking at a small women's group tomorrow for the first time ever, and this really spoke to me. Okay.
Well, the one that says we've all got baggage, it says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Everybody is a sinner. So there are no perfect parents. So you can, the Bible doesn't use the word baggage, although there is a text where the Bible uses the word stuff, which I thought is interesting, about all your stuff. But the Bible doesn't use the word that there are no perfect parents and we all raised with baggage, but it says all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. When Adam sinned, he passed death onto the human race. When he sinned, he passed death onto the human race. And it is that we're dying, is that we're separated from God. That's why we're dying. And so he didn't pass sin on, he passed death on. And because we're dying and separated from God, then we are sinners. And the whole cause, the only reason that we're on this earth is to get past that and get back to God and become one with God. So he has put his character and disposition in our life, and he's making every decision in our life. And when he is, we will no longer sin. So that is the reason for this life. And he's taking us through everything we need to go through. Some will make it through this time, and some will be back to make it through the next time, but everybody's eventually going to get there. And that's why I say I'd rather do it now rather than later.
Yeah. And you know what, Dr. Day, that is such good news. It is such good news because we worry about our children. We worry about our family, our friends. We worry about things, maybe ourselves even. And this is so nice that to be able to say, "Huh, what the heck am I worrying about when God is in control?
Right.
I can act accordingly. I can act and just do things that I need to do."
Right.
And do
that's
it with a loving heart.
Occasionally I'll talk to somebody who's suicidal too. And you may think this is harsh, but I say to them, look, you're going to be back. You commit suicide to try to get rid of these problems now, you'll be back. You'll be back and you'll have all the same problems. You're going to have to deal with them then. Why don't you just deal with them now?
Absolutely. I'll say amen to that. So here's a twist from Nancy. So Nancy says, use that anger to propel you to solve problems. There's a difference between using anger for promotion and using anger because everything, even guilt, shame, and envy have been used in the Bible for good. Right, Dr. Day? Would you like to talk about?
Well, yeah. In fact, if you look at the patriarchs and prophets, they were all sinners, but God used that sin to bring them humility and to put them on a different path. And that's what God does with all of us. So, if you've been a sinner in the past, great, because then you're propelled in a different path, we hope. So the thing is, that's the way we get there, is we have to get far enough down that we recognize our need for Jesus Christ to run our life. So that's why God introduced sin, to actually eventually turn us to him. And so you suppose there are many instances of people who are drug addicts, and they had to get so far down till they really recognized they needed Christ to run their life. And so not every drug addict learns that before they die, but then they'll be back and they'll still have the problem, but there won't be any drugs around, and they're going to have to go cold turkey. And they're going to have to learn how to do it then. So the whole point is, the verse is, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. That's where it is.
And where is that? What is the scripture verse? Do you have it off the top of your head?
No, I don't have it off the top of my head.
We can just look it up. Yeah, we can look it up. Not a problem. Okay, so Dr. Day, we got Dancing Kay. She's so excited that she needed to hear this today and is sending blessing. Harboring anger over the past need to be released. And so obviously this is triggering something to release some of this anger. And I want to say also, I coached somebody who was punched in the stomach by someone. It was a stepmother, and she was punched in the stomach, and that punching was the straw that broke the camel's back, and she went ballistic. And when she did that, she got some stuff done. She used that, but here's what happened to her. She used that anger, that same kind of energy that started from that punch in the gut. And this was a literal punch in the gut. It wasn't like Dr. Day when she pokes me in the eye. So, and every time there was a crisis in her life, she would go into this maniac, raging lunatic that got things done. Didn't support her, and it caused people to be upset with her but she thought she was just getting things done. The reality was, she was not using that anger well. She was misusing it. And so, yes, you can use anger to move you towards resolution and taking action. But if you do it out of anger, with anger, you are not going to be as effective. as if you do it out of love or knowing that it's the right thing to do. Dr. Day, I see you shaking your head.
That's right. The thing is, when I think now about how I used to be, and I used to get mad at a lot of things that people get mad at. They weren't,
Yeah, yeah,
they're small things.
justifiable.
Yeah, justifiable anger. But it's so great not to have to do that anymore. You just say, oh, just let it roll off your back, and it doesn't matter. You just let it go and say, oh, that poor person, they're harming themselves by doing that, and you just move on. You don't have to respond to those kinds of things in any way, even in your brain. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Part of it is from learning to know God, and part of it is from living a long time. After a while, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just let it go.
Let it go.
Somebody doesn't like you, somebody says nasty things about you. Okay. But you just keep moving.
Well, here's a shift to that, Dr. Day. When somebody says something to me that is hateful or mean-spirited, or they're saying things that I am this and I am that, really what they are doing is revealing their heart.
Right.
They are telling me who they are, and
Yeah.
you see in others who you are.
That's right.
And so when you shift that around, yeah, maybe you are those things, but the person who's saying it is recognizing it in you because they are that way too. So it doesn't help you to say, well, you are that way too, which is something that I would resort to do in the past. And sometimes maybe even now, it's like, what are you calling me, black kettle? But the reality is, that's a lesson in that person's heart. And when they're gossiping about somebody else and they're telling you about them, there's a difference between telling you about someone because you need to resolve it and you're looking for a way to release it versus gossip. And I want to tell you about somebody just because I want to ruin their reputation. They are telling you about them. So just be forewarned. Okay, so we've got 2 more questions before we go, Dr. Day. So one of them is from Lean Mean Mulching Machine. Okay, she says, what would you say to someone who insists that Satan isn't real?
Well, I don't try to convince people of what they don't want
Good
to
answer.
believe.
Yeah.
If they don't want to believe that Satan is real, it doesn't bother me. Satan is real. What I frequently say, well, the Rothschilds believe he's real. They worship him, and they're trillionaires. And George Soros believes in that, and so does Rockefeller. They believe Satan's real because they worship him. So the thing is, if you don't want to believe Satan is real, it doesn't bother me, but eventually you will understand that he is. But if you don't want to believe that now, it's okay. Yeah. I don't try to convince people against their will. Just like we talked about the other day, you try to convince people against their will, they're of the same opinion still. It doesn't change them. And like one philosopher said, don't try to teach a pig how to sing. It irritates you and annoys the heck out of the pig. So don't try to do that. It's just not worth it. If people want to know truth and they come to you and say, share truth with me, or ask you a question that they really want to know, I have gone way past trying to convince people against their will. Don't do that.
Yeah, I know. And it's in our nature to want to save everybody. But when we step back and say, you know what? I don't need to save anybody.
No,
I don't need to save anybody. God's doing that. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So Mary, okay, I'm going to add one more question. That's it. No more. There's another question on YouTube that I promised I was going to get to, but is it okay to eat cheese and eggs since an animal does not have to die? Aren't these foods good for a diabetic since what? Aren't these foods good for a diabetic since they don't? And there's nothing else.
The thing is that cows are very diseased now. Animal products, there's as Lillian and I have discussed, we're the only animal that drinks the milk from another animal.
Yes.
And other animals don't drink milk from another animal. If you ever had a cow come up to your door and say they need some mother's milk for their calf, this doesn't happen. And so we don't need that, and we don't need milk after we weaned. You can drink almond milk, you can drink rice milk. They're very good, and they're made, you can get them organic, and they're made from from vegetables and nuts and fruits. So the whole point is you don't need those. And animals, you're drinking the animals' hormones, and the cheese, you're eating the animals' hormones, and all this bad stuff they're giving to animals.
Pus. There's
Maybe mad
pus
cow
in
disease.
there's pus
Yeah,
in cheese. Yeah.
pus and cheese. So all of
Antibiotics.
these, yeah. So you don't need that. And the thing is that they don't grow in the garden. Just eat the stuff that grows in the garden, and then you'll be fine.
Okay. Okay. Last question, Dr. Day. This is a marathon. I'm probably going to do the Q&A in a separate video.
Okay.
Everything's going to upload together, but I'm going to do a separate Q&A video if people just want to go to the Q&A, because people love to hear what you have to say. Excuse me. It says from Nirvacho. Dr. Day, do you think as many true Christians believe that Trump is Satan in flesh? Oh,
First of all, how do you know a true Christian is a true Christian? If they're a true Christian, they're not going to think anybody is Satan in the flesh. They will have a different heart from that. Secondly, Trump is Trump. Trump has, I think he has some redeeming qualities.
yeah.
If you don't like him, that's fine, but you don't have to, disparage him. I'm not a big fan of some of the people who run. The president has already been picked. He's been picked years ago. The voting is just for people to think that they have some hand in who runs their government, but we don't. It is all faked. It is all faked. I can tell you that for sure. All the voting machines can be manipulated by remote control. I have absolute evidence for that. I haven't voted in 30 years, ever since I found out all of this. So,
But we're not saying not to vote. We're not saying not to vote, because I'm voting.
not to vote.
Yes.
I'm saying I don't vote.
I know.
Right. So
I want people to know that you're not saying that to them, because people.
But I am going to say to you, your vote doesn't count. I am going to say that to you, because I know that for sure. Trump doesn't run the country. The president has never run the country since Kennedy. And look what they did to him when he tried to run the country. All right. So all of the directions for the president come from the Rothschilds in the city of London, through the Council on Foreign Relations, and to the president. And if he doesn't do them, now their fight, Trump is Jewish. He'll fight with the other Jews. The real name was Drumpf, D-R-U-M-P-F. And so the thing is that they'll fight with each other. But the point is that the president doesn't make the final decisions on anything of importance anyway. The Rothschilds do. They own the money supply of America through the Federal Reserve. They're going to cause it to crash probably this coming year, 2021, and there's going to be a depression like you've never seen before, and that is planned. And so before Obama was elected, 20 years before Obama was elected, it was planned.
Yeah, I'm trying to find your book.
Elected, right. So the point is that the president has already been picked, whether it's going to be Trump or Biden or Harris or Hillary Clinton. They've got it all orchestrated, and they know exactly how it's going to go. So you can vote all you want. I'm not saying don't vote. I'm saying your vote doesn't count, because this is all nothing but a sham. That's what it is.
Well, it's a distraction. It's a distraction right now, because we're involved in the fight. We're involved with the fight and fighting with one another. And I started a group called I Am 99. And I Am 99 came from a revelation I had in the morning. And I was like, how can the 1% of the 1% control 99% of the people? And so I started thinking, okay, first, well, there's division, Christian Jews. Who killed God? Who killed Jesus? The Christians or the Jews? The Romans? And then there's the fighting between the 99% turned into 49%, and then black and white, and there's fighting with the blacks and whites, and all the different denominations, and all distractions. And now we're down to 25%, and now there's like gays and straights. So no, we're going to fight and the gay rights and all the transgender rights. And we're all fighting amongst ourselves. Now we're down to 12%, and we can keep going on and on. Mask wearers.
It's all programmed.
That's right. Mask wearers, non-mask wear. Let's go down the list. I mean, we could talk about people who, you know, are Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. Let's go religion. Let's keep it down. Now we're at 1%. Now we're at 0.05%. You keep diluting, and we're doing the fighting. Enough of the fighting. So it's called I Am 99. It's a Facebook group that we're going to focus on freedom and praying. Now we're praying to God, and we started the study from that. It's being right with God. I was telling Dr. Day that I was asked a question. I was being interviewed by John in a radio station in Colorado, and he asked the question about, you know, the COVID-19, and I said, you know, this is not about COVID and wearing a mask or a flu or a vaccine or whatever. This is about getting right with God. Mm-hmm. Let's end all the distraction. Let's get our head together here. We need to be right with God. That's what it tells me, Dr. Day. I mean,
of course. And the thing is that God has allowed every type of politics to rule. We've had aristocracies, we've had communism, we have socialism, we have democracy, we have
division.
What God is showing us is that none of them work. None of them work. The only one that works is if God rules our life. Mm-hmm. You can try any kind of government, it always goes bad. Yeah. You see, if Old Testament Israel, again, the Israelites were worshipers of the true God, and so God was their king for a time. He brought them through the wilderness, and he was the king. And then they came and said, we want a king like all the other nations. And Samuel at that time was the judge, and God worked through Samuel, but God was really their king. And they said, no, we want a king like all the others. And God says, and Samuel was very distraught. He said, they have rejected me. And God said, no, they haven't rejected you. They've rejected me. They rejected me. They want a human king like all the other nations. And so God at first gave them King Saul, and that turned out to be a disaster. And then he chose King David, who was his king. But the thing is, it still went bad. King David's offspring eventually all went bad. And so God is trying to show us that no type of government that's run by man works.
Yes.
None of it works. Look, we started out as a supposed Christian nation 250 years ago. 250 years. How's it turned out? Not very well. Look where we are now. And that's how they'll all turn out unless God is running everything. So that's why God allowed sin in the world to show us how evil sin can get. And then we'll say, we don't want that anymore. And that's the only way that we'll be safe for eternity is, as everybody said, I don't want that. And that's what this is all about.
And we will be saved when everyone is good enough to, what was it? What is it that you say? We will, when everybody's good to save, we will be saved.
We are only safe to save when the salvation of everyone in the world is as important to us as our own.
Yeah, I love that. And with that, we're going to leave that because it's getting to be almost 7 o'clock, and I'm sure Robert's going, okay, honey. Me wants to eat some salad. We got some tacos. We got some Mexican salad today. Dr. Day. And when I say Mexican, I'm talking about black beans and corn and onions and salsa and some great, it's already got it ready. Oh, he's probably putting it together, but I'm excited today, Dr. Day, that you are such a wealth of wisdom, and that you walk the walk and talk the talk. You don't just talk, you do walk it. So thank you so much. And for those of you who are still hanging on to every word Dr. Day says, thank you so much for joining us today. If something we said touched your heart, or something that share it with your friends. Make sure that the classroom continues to grow, because people aren't getting notified anymore. So please be the messengers out there, letting them know that there is a place where they can go to when they need a friend. And please, if you haven't joined us in the Bible study, we have recorded every single one, and you'll catch up to week 9 that will be on Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Day, you are truly a busy woman, and to have you with us today for this long is such a treat. So thank
Well,
you
it's
so
wonderful.
much for
Thank
everything you do.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, go and start reading your Bibles and start making some commitments to be committed to the commitment instead of the feeling. We'll see you soon. Bye.